Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name, of course, is Campea, and this is the relaunch of the Weekly Hero, and I'm so glad you guys are back. And you know, one of the reasons that I stopped doing the Weekly Hero a while ago was because of the fact that it was just a little bit too much like the John Campea show, and I thought, you know, if I could just get a good, regular, knowledgeable co-host, I could do the Weekly Hero again. And wouldn't you know, look at this guy. Robert Meyer Burnett's here, ladies and gentlemen. Robert, how you doing, man?
John, it's great to be here working with you again. You know, I was first on Heroes with you. You had me on your Film HQ show, and we've even schmodown together.
I forgot about the Film HQ show. Yeah, because I had you on the Film HQ show a number of times, right?
Yeah, you did, and I had a lot of fun, and we won a schmodown together.
That's right. We are
Team Heroes.
We are technically we were undefeated.
We were undefeated.
Technically, we were undefeated.
Until I went singles and crashed and burned. I won the Intergeekdom Championship, then
everything went downhill from there.
It did.
All right, guys, listen, this is how today's going to go. We've got a few topics here that we're going to talk about. We also got a few items we want to look at that I'm very excited about sharing. So, hey, listen, and by the way, fact checker Jonathan's in the room. You can't see him right now, but he's here going to help us out in case we need some information or facts or whatever. But listen, guys, here we go. So, we all know about the James Gunn drama that's been going on. He was fired from Disney for decade-old tweets, blah, blah, things he changed in himself years ago about whatever. Then we, of course, got the cast signing a letter saying they want him back. Doesn't look like Disney's going to bring him back. Fine, whatever. But there was a Hollywood Reporter story today that I found interesting for two reasons. Number one is the fact that the Hollywood Reporter is saying that there are multiple studios lining up to offer big, high-profile projects to James Gunn right now, and that they can't make him the direct offer right now because he's still in the middle of negotiating his exit from Disney, and the report says he's going to get somewhere between $7 and $10 million to do nothing, which is awesome. Anyway, but then there's this one other little single line in the story that really jumped out to me as odd, and that one line in the story is this. Hollywood Reporter says that sources are telling them, remember, this is some random blog, this is the Hollywood Reporter saying, it looks like they're going to use James Gunn's script for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Here's the question I have, and I'm going to throw this over to you, Robert, first, get your impression of this. To me, this is a little odd, because, like, to me, if you're going to come out, if you're Alan Horn, and you're going to come out and you're going to say, oh, I'm shocked at this stuff James Gunn said, blah, blah, blah. This is not consistent with us. We don't want to have anything to do with James Gunn. Shouldn't you then use another script? Isn't there a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Isn't it a little bit inconsistent to make the statements Alan Horn made and then to just go, oh yeah, but we're going to use a script? I don't know, your thoughts on this whole thing.
Well, first of all, the studios are also governed by the various unions that they have to deal with, the WGA, the DGA. The Writers Guild of America is a very strict union, and the studios are, they subscribe, they sign on to be part of those unions. So you can't just throw out a writer's script, especially a writer who's written a third screenplay for you for a franchise that's made you. If you include the Guardians films and you include Infinity War 1 and 2, or Avengers 4, or whatever it's called, James Gunn's an EP. I don't know if he's still going to be an EP on Infinity War 4.
Well, it's funny because we're just watching Infinity War again for the director's commentary, and sure, one of the very first title screens, executive producer James Gunn.
Yeah. And so Disney is very ensconced with. They were in the James Gunn business for the long haul, and you can't just jettison someone's script that, depending on what their contract says. So Disney, look, the script was already written. James Gunn has not directed a frame yet, so they can get rid of him as a director. There's no problems with any unions. He might have had a contract they're going to have to pay off, obviously, but the Writers Guild's a whole other thing entirely. He's already written the script. It's probably already registered. They bring someone else on board, if they're going to rewrite it, depending on the percentage of how much they. So I think in the way using James Gunn's script helps Disney save face with the people. I mean, Dave Bautista had tweeted if they're not going to use his script, he was just going to walk, whatever it cost him. I think using James Gunn's script is a good compromise. It allows him to still have an imprimatur with those characters and really sort of, in a way, finish the journey that he began. And, you know, James Gunn, I worked with him 20 years ago on a movie he wrote called The Specials that he actually is in, where he plays an Atom character called Minute Man. And he's a terrific guy. He's a terrific guy to work with. Everybody who knows him will tell you that. And it's just a shame all the way around. But I think this is a good way of Disney saving face and compromising. And look, that means the script's really good too.
That's one of the things that is one of the things that kind of dawned on me afterwards, which kind of gets me a little bit excited for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, is if they do want to keep the script, it's got to say something good about the script. But it's interesting that your point of view on it is that by using the script, you're saving a little bit of face. Whereas my initial reaction was, by using it, you're almost losing face a little bit. Because if you're Alan Horn, you get up and you say, oh, no, bad James Gunn, we don't want anything to do with him. But now you've number one, you got to write him a check for $10 million. Right. And either way, you're paying him off. And then number two, you still have to use his script. So then how much are they going to put on? Because this isn't a situation like the Edgar Wright situation, right? Where Edgar Wright and Marvel, they just came to a place where, hey, we love the idea of the movie, but the MCU has progressed. It's no longer a movie that works for the MCU. And Edgar Wright was like, yes, but this is the movie I wanted. This is my vision. And they just mutually decided, okay, we're going to part ways. Yeah. No hard feelings. Edgar Wright's name was all over the place on Ant-Man, both as a contributor, a producer, all this kind of stuff. The James Gunn situation is a little bit different. There's obviously high-profile stuff in here and all that kind of stuff. Let me ask you this then. So we talked about this on the John Campea show earlier today. So also, according to this report in the Hollywood Reporter, they're saying other studios are already telling the Hollywood Reporter, oh, we're ready to jump on him in a minute. We are ready to go. There's one studio exec they talked to in the interview who just says, I'm ready to offer him a movie right now, but they just got to wait for him to finish his separation deal with Disney. How quick? Because I speculated the other day, everybody would want to give it maybe like 6 months, Give it 6 months, a little time for everything to blow over. But let's say they signed this deal, James Gunn and Disney signed this separation deal. How quickly could we hear James Gunn has signed on to direct a DC movie, to direct a Guardians of the Galaxy, a Green Lantern Corps movie, or another Justice League, or whatever, some other high-profile genre film with another studio? How much time do you think is going to pass before we see James Gunn hook up with something else?
I think probably the day after he signs his exit agreement with Disney, because James Gunn, there's a very rare group of people on the planet Earth that are able to direct studio franchise pictures. That is a very, very, very short list. And James Gunn has done 2, and they both made in excess of $750 million.
Yeah, one over $800 million.
One over $800 million.
Yeah.
And the characters show up in Infinity War, which he's an EP on. So he's got an incredible track record as far as Hollywood's concerned. Everyone likes him. What I find interesting about this whole situation is these tweets that James Gunn made. I mean, he was an agent provocateur way in the day. He had made these tweets.
Well, he was making movies with Troma.
He wrote a novel called The Toy Collector that's got some rough material in it. And it's not like he did anything different. He hasn't done anything since he directed Guardians of the Galaxy 1. It's just a right-wing hit piece against him comes out and brings up these tweets that he'd already apologized for, and then they get rid of him. Look, I understand the optics for a company like Disney can look pretty bad. But there's also a contextual reason James Gunn made those tweets. He didn't just make them off the cuff. He was referring to other filmmakers that had done their time, but convicted pedophiles who made films, who continue to make films. That's what it was about. And that history is out there to find. So yes, he might have used poor taste, but he used poor taste.
I'll say he absolutely used poor taste. It was poor taste.
But if you look at movies like Slither and Super, they have some edgy, crazy, scatological humor at times in them. And look, these times, it's not a time to be flip about these subjects. I mean, they're indefensible, the tweets. They're not that funny. So I understand where it came from, but like, how in our society are we going to get convicted for saying things that we said 25 years ago? What's the cutoff point?
Yeah, and the big problem, the thing with me was this. It's not that it's 10 years. Somebody would say to me online, say, John, the fact that it was almost 10 years ago doesn't make it okay. And I'm like, I agree. That doesn't make it okay. It does make it okay? And you guys who've been watching me, you've been hearing me say this a lot the last few days, but I'll say it again. You know what makes it okay in my mind? is the fact that actions speak louder than words. And what was James Gunn's action? He looked at his own stuff, said, this is inappropriate. I don't want to be this guy who writes this idiotic stuff. And he stopped.
Right.
And he's changed. And for years, he changed. Actions speak louder than words. I don't care if he says he's sorry. That's just words. He demonstrated a change of action. But anyway, all that aside.
No, but I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, what is our society and civilization about anyway? I mean, isn't that what you're supposed to do is grow and learn from your mistakes? Isn't that the whole basis of being an American? That you can reinvent yourself and you can come back, you can be an underdog and rise up and be great again even after you've made great mistakes?
Wasn't that the whole point of the Guardians of the Galaxy?
I would think so, you know, and it's very interesting to me, but unfortunately we've lost, I think, a great filmmaking voice from the MCU. But like I said, I don't think James Gunn is going to have to worry because anyone's going to be lucky to have him, especially the DC universe.
Right, but back to my question, though. How long do you think it's going to be?
Days, if not
Days.
hours. I wouldn't be surprised if James Gunn has 4 different contracts, 10 different contracts on his desk right now from every major studio that he's contemplating and wondering which one he's going to sign. It's just he can't do it, and he can't. Look, that's the way the world works. You don't. Just because you technically have to wait until a contract is signed doesn't mean you can't be considering an offer.
Right.
Before we're not making you this offer, James, but take a look at this.
Just so you know, next week after you sign that thing, you might be getting something from a FedEx delivery guy with a proposal in it.
Right.
We're just saying. All right. Well, listen, you guys chime in. How long do you think it's going to be between when James Gunn signs his separation deal with Disney, collects the huge money he's going to collect to do nothing? Wouldn't we all love to be fired from our jobs like that? And when he actually starts and accepts a gig with a new studio, jump down to the comment section and leave me your thoughts. Now, listen, we got a few other topics we want to talk about, but listen, we'd be remiss to have Robert Meyer Burnett, Mr. Hot Toys, in the house and not talk a little bit about Hot Toys. Now, I asked Robert, I said, you know what, Robert? If we're going to do this, I think every week you should bring in a new hot toy. And I said, you know, we've been talking a lot about Guardians lately. You got anything in the vein of Guardians of the Galaxy? So, Robert,
It's funny
what do you got to show us today?
It's funny that you say that because just last week, I hadn't even opened it. I didn't even take it out of the box until today. I got Yondu.
Oh my God.
Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I mean, look at this box. The box alone is a work of art. I mean, if you look at all this, it's got this Milano thing here. It's got this awesome pop art cover that looks like it's something out of the end credits of the movies. Now, and this is the deluxe version. There's 2 versions. This is the deluxe version. So it comes with Yondu's weapon. And I didn't take out the spear. I didn't take out all the accessories because I haven't even opened it up myself. So
that thing is just so beautiful.
It's stunning. And even what's so cool about even this box, you've got it looks like a cassette player. Like you take it out, and there's the cassette. It's got the credits of everybody who worked
like
on
a
the figure.
playlist.
Like a playlist. It's so good.
That's actually one of the things when I started looking at Hot Toys more seriously, realizing that the boxes. You pointed this out to me. The boxes, like movies, have credits on the boxes. They're so good.
And you know the artwork. These figures speak for themselves. I mean, this comes. You can have him with his fin on or off. It's got a lot of great deluxe features. I won't take them all out now, but I will take the figure out.
Let's see the figure.
Here, I'll put this down.
Fact checker Jonathan.
Oh,
gingerly bringing over the Yondu.
Look at this. I mean, that is Michael Rooker. Look at that face sculpt. We'll put the camera on it so you can really see it close up.
Yeah, actually, Jonathan, why don't you bring that over here? I'll bring in a tighter
This is why I love Hot Toys figures. I mean, Rooker could be in the room. You know, if you put our heads the same size, look, I'm talking to Michael Rooker. That's why I love these figures so much because, as I said in a video, which you can see on my YouTube page, The Burnett Work, I love Hot Toys figures so much because, as a kid, licensed figures suck. They never looked the way they were supposed to look. The proportions were all wrong. And this is what I dreamt about having as a kid.
I'm going to, as you're talking here, I'm going to show everybody a little bit of a close-up here. So we got
look at how
the John Cam.
Look at how great this figure is. And, I mean, there's no detail that is left uncovered.
I mean, look at this shot, folks. If you didn't already know this was a toy You would think Michael Rooker was in the room right now. Look at the detail on this damn thing.
It's just unbelievable. And if you grew up with 3 3/4-inch Star Wars action figures from the old school, or Mego figures that are 8 inches tall, or old 12-inch G.I. Joe figures, I just dreamt of having figures that looked, even as however close you get that camera, look at the detail on that costume.
I mean, just in the leather itself.
Unbelievable.
Come on, autofocus, get in there. There we go, autofocus. I mean, the leather, the costuming. I pointed out this to you earlier. It's like he's even got like the ascot in there.
And what's so great about this is it really distills. First of all, it distills the fact you have an actor performing this character. You have a rich history of artists who have drawn these characters. Then you have the people on the film that actually made these costumes, who made all the choices. James Gunn had input into directing his friend Michael Rooker. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. I mean, this is what these inspire me. I have them around my desk when I'm writing or working or editing or whatever, and I dream to one day make something that they turn into a character. If I could direct one character someday that they turn into a Hot Toys figure, that would be the realization of a dream.
It's absolutely gorgeous, and you guys just saw those close-up shots of it. It's nothing compared to actually holding it. Like the leather, it's real leather.
Yeah.
And it just feels amazing in your hands and the whole bit. It's just absolutely incredible. So since Rob brought in something, I thought I would share something too. So when I was at Comic-Con this year, I didn't buy a lot, but there was one thing I came across. Now, I'm a big fan of the South Park Fractured But Whole video game series. The whole motif, the way it makes fun of the superhero genre and everything. So Ann and I were there, and we went to go see our friend Kyle Newman. He was doing a Dungeons & Dragons panel. It was being held in this toy shop in San Diego. So we go in, and I saw this. And I haven't opened this yet, but it's Mysterion. And I saw this there, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to have that. So I have not opened this thing yet. Let me just crack it open. It's not any kind of big unboxing. But this is literally my first time opening it here. And, I don't want to break off his question mark. This figure is awesome. It's a vinyl figure. Let me get this thing off. I'm sure I'm doing it wrong. I'm just going to toss everything aside here. Bang! Here he is, folks. Mysterion. He looks amazing. And I think partially is just because let me go over to the other cam here quick. I just love the character, and I love the whole Fractured But Whole thing. But I don't know if you can get a sense of the size of him, too. It's a really good size figure. He's got his question mark on there. It's a vinyl thing, so it's kind of like... This is not a Funko figure. But I just love this dude. And I'll tell you what, I got him, and I got the Coon. So they also had Cartman's the Coon. I'll open that up another time. And these things were $30. And because I saw him and I went up to the register to ask how much for this thing, and I was really convinced they were going to tell me it was going to be like $100 or something like that. It was $30, beautiful size, good weight to it, looks just like out of the show. So I just fell in love with this thing. So there you go, guys. Every week we're going to have Robert Meyer Burnett bring in a new figure from his collection to show off and let us all drool over a little bit. So hey, listen. Now we move beyond that. Robert, it's you were pointing this out to me a little bit earlier, that this week is actually like a hallmark in the world of comic books for a particular family of superheroes. Why don't you tell us about that a bit?
Fantastic Four, that have been not being printed for a while now. Marvel discontinued the comic, has now come back on its 61st birthday. And
61 years.
Bringing it back today. And, I have to say, John Schnapp, who we did Heroes with. I met you through John.
Right.
Loved the Fantastic Four.
Yes, he did.
He was one of his favorite comics, and maybe his favorite comic of all time. He would have loved being here today and seeing that family come back. And I can't help but think that he might have had something to do with bringing it back. Even before the merger with Fox.
I still remember we were doing a show together when it was announced they were discontinuing Fantastic Four. And it was funny because we were doing the show, and at the time, it was funny at the time. In hindsight, it's not that funny, but we were like, somebody would ask me, why on earth would they discontinue the Fantastic Four? And I said, because when you looked at the sales charts, I said, more people are watching this video than bought the comic book of Fantastic Four, which was actually true. It wasn't even hyperbole. But I think there's been a resurgence in interest in those characters. And it's kind of neat to see that they're coming back, particularly in the same week that marks the 61st anniversary of the character's introduction.
Right.
So, do you think them returning has anything to do with Disney thinking and Marvel thinking they're getting the movie rights back, or do you think it's totally separate?
No, I think there is some consideration there. I mean, what people don't realize is that when you hear a deal in Hollywood announced, when something is announced, it means it's been in discussions for quite some time.
Sometimes years.
Sometimes years. Nobody just calls up and goes, "Hey, wouldn't it be great if Disney bought Fox?" And then the next day they announce it in the trades. I mean, no, these are negotiations and non-negotiations and clandestine backdoor meetings or whatever that go on for a long period of time before we ever hear about it. It's like it's always sort of, I'm always amused when people talk about, "Ooh, I found out a spoiler about a movie," because the movie's already been made. There's already been a script. I mean, the movie's been made for like 2 years, and then somebody finds out, "Ooh, guess what happens in this movie?" Well, it's not a surprise to anybody who's making the movie. I mean, it's a spoiler to the general public, but it's not a spoiler to the people that work on a film. So these kinds of deals, I mean, if they're going to bring back the Fantastic Four, I think that possibly, I mean, now that the Fox deal is moving forward, I can only imagine that Kevin Feige, when they were talking about Spider-Man to Sony and about how they're going to proceed, I mean, you could have the negative zone be the quantum verse. You could tie in what's going on with Ant-Man, with the Fantastic Four somehow. I mean, who knows? There's maybe the Fantastic Four where they disappeared in the 60s. You know, so I've heard people say they can come out now because they've been stuck in the negative zone or the quantum verse for that long. I mean, there's so many things they could do. It just really excites me. I mean, how funny would it be for the MCU to have a family that last was in the United States or in America in the 60s, and suddenly they're around now, like dealing with all. What would Reed Richards do with all this new science? And you'd be like, on iPhone, this is amazing. You know, it could be great. It could be great. So.
All right, so there you have it. So Fantastic Four has come back. All right, let's move on to this. In the recent years, comic book TV shows have exploded.
Yeah.
They exploded, not just with CW coming out with apparently a new show every other week. You know, we heard this week about the Batwoman being cast and all that kind of stuff. But we've also got Hulu's got like 2 full-time series running right now with Cloak and Dagger and The Runaways. We've got, obviously Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is still things going. There's talks about more things coming out there, blah, blah. So, and then Fox has a number of series on with Legion, with The Gifted.
Gotham is still going.
Gotham is still going for at least another season. So we're now approaching, as we're heading into September, we're getting close now to the new television series, or this new television season coming back. I'm curious, which are the series that Robert Meyer Burnett is looking forward to coming back and looking forward to rejoining and getting back on?
Well, I have to say that despite the trailer, which I wasn't big on, for me it's always been Titans. You know, I know Titans is going to be on. It's officially on the DC Universe streaming network, so it's not a returning show.
Right, but hey, it qualifies.
But the Teen Titans is especially the Marv Wolfman, George Perez run. I've said this so many times. It's one of my favorite comics of all time. And to see, I know Jeff Johns was a huge fan of that. He was involved in the creative team of Titans. I'm just hoping it's going to be great because I never thought I'd ever see a Teen Titans live action series, especially after the animated series has done so well. We got Teen Titans Go to the Movies, which was, by the way, a hoot. I love Teen Titans Go to the Movies. I thought it was hilarious.
I still have not seen it, but Anne wants to see it, so I'll probably end up seeing it here pretty soon.
But, you know, based on Schnepp watching Gotham and liking it, I've started to sort of dip my toes into Gotham because I didn't like it at all. And when I dropped out, and I've kind of come back and watching the last couple seasons. I'm almost up to date. I'm kind of digging it. You know, I'm kind of liking Gotham. I really like Runaways. I love the comic.
I love Runaways. I love that show. Great? It's fantastic.
I mean, I was really surprised at how they dealt with both the kids and their parents. I mean, everybody was sort of, you understood the reasons why, and it was really surprising. And such
a terrific cast. Not only did they cast the kids perfectly.
Yeah.
But the cast of parents was right on the mark. So well done.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a large ensemble cast, great show. I mean, I can't wait for Runaways. I adore Legion. I think Legion is absolutely bonkers, and I love it. I don't know where they're going to go in the third season. I mean, it kind of scares me. Like, but the CW shows are really up and down for me. I'm really pulling for Arrow this season. I know last season was pretty good. This season, two of my good friends, Ben Rabb and Derek Hughes, are co-EPs on the show. So I'm hoping they wrote the comic Living in Infamy that I published.
Right.
So I'm hoping that they're I hope it's great. I'm sure it will be great. But I look, anytime I watch the CW shows, no matter what they are, even when the episodes aren't great, I still have a smile on my face. I still like them. I mean, I can't not like The Flash. I can't not like Supergirl. And the fact that they're doing this Batwoman crossover, and a lot of people said, I was a big proponent, like, I like Ruby Rose. I like her attitude. Look, maybe she's not the best actress in the world yet.
See, and I've never seen Orange is the New Black, so I really don't have any kind of groundwork.
John Wick 2.
Yeah, but she didn't speak in it, so
right.
I really don't have any kind of a baseline to judge about whether or not I think she's a decent actress or not.
I think she's an incredibly beautiful woman. I love her look.
Oh, no doubt.
She looks like a superheroine to me, and I've read interviews with her, and she seems pretty whip smart and pretty on the ball, and I like her. Like, my experience of her in the media has been a good one. I really want her to be great. So I think she's going to look, if they go with that costume, she's going to look incredible.
You didn't see it earlier, but Ray, when we talked about the story about her taking over the role, for at least one or two episodes, whether or not they'll actually go to series with the Batwoman thing, we'll find that out later. But he did his own Photoshop of her in the costume with the long red hair, and it's like, hey, it looked great. It looked awesome. I hope they do stick to that costume.
They've been pretty good about their costumes. I mean, I'm a big fan of what I think we're getting. We live in a wonderful time of costumes translated to screen. We're a long ways away from those old Captain America, like when Red Brown was Captain America. Or they've really figured out the superhero costume. So I'm really hoping that we're going to get the great Batwoman costume.
I'll tell you what, with the Fox stuff, I loved Legion Season 1. I gotta admit, Season 2 lost me.
Well, it was so, yeah.
It lost me.
I don't blame you.
The Fox series, though, that I am surprisingly right on board with, because I was at Comic-Con when they first started putting up all these billboards for this new Gifted show. And I thought, well, that looks a little bit lame. But I was a little bit interested because one of Anne's good friends, one of her sorority sisters, she plays Blink in it. So we were like, well, so we'll give the show a shot. But I've also seen her in, like, the Dragon Ball movie, and that was horrible.
Right.
But I got to tell you, I love this Gifted show. I think right now...
I liked it too. And I thought it got better as it went along.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely got better. And the season finale was fantastic. I tell you what, right now, I think the two shows I am most looking forward to coming back are Runaways and probably Gifted. And I used to be really big on Arrow. I fell off the Arrow train a little bit, but this last season wasn't all that bad. Gotham's always been a little bit hit and miss with me. I think the show really works when it focuses on Jim Gordon and not on not when they're like, look, guys, he becomes Batman. It's like, yes, we get it, we know. So when they focus on Jim Gordon, the show really works for me. So they go back and forth on that. Although I did like the Ra's al Ghul stuff they did this past season.
Yep.
That was pretty good too. But one of the surprise hits for me this year was another CW show, which was Black Lightning, which ended up being much better than I thought it was going to be.
Well, I think Black Lightning is great. I was surprised. Again, after Legends of Tomorrow, I should not have been surprised what they were going to go for. But, Black Lightning, I'm like, why don't they do a Batman and the Outsiders show with just the Outsiders, with, like, those black characters like Halo? I never thought I'd see. We've seen Black Lightning animated, but that show was great.
Yeah.
And the relationship, the father-daughter relationship, all that stuff, it's just great. I love it.
And I just like the fact, I was kind of hooked on the fact that, because I used to love Dexter. The fact that they had Dexter's dad.
Right.
What was his name? Harry? Yeah, Harry's Law. They had Dexter's dad in it, so that was pretty awesome too. Well, listen, we were also going to talk today about our thoughts on the Infinity War commentary. There were a couple other things, but we're already at a half hour, and I wanted to save at least a half hour just to take your guys' questions. And you guys have been firing in live questions like mad. So we're going to go over and take live questions right now. And the first live question today comes to us from SSJR Goku Black, who writes, Part 1. I'm seeing a lot of backlash in the LGBTQ community towards Ruby Rose as Batwoman. By saying she can't act / doesn't fit the role, they want Ashley Plata, who I have no idea who Ashley Plata is, to have the role based on her audition that was posted online for the role. What are your thoughts? Well, my first thought is I've never heard of Ashley Plata, so I have no idea. Number 2, whenever you use the word they, people try to say, here's the thing, and I've said this on my show before. When you hear people say, the fans want this, no, you want that. And some of your friends want that, and some other people who are like-minded to you online that you've conversed with, they want that as well. But believe me when I tell you, you do not speak for the whole fan community. Believe me when I tell you that no matter how big this group is that says they want whoever this Ashley Plata girl is, they do not speak for everybody. With Ruby Rose, again, I've never seen Orange is the New Black. I have no idea. So I will give the producers of the show the benefit of the doubt. But just because you see a leaked audition thing online, don't think for a second that means you have insight to everything that's gone on there. So again, if I knew who Ashley Plata was, maybe I'd have a different opinion. If I saw Ruby Rose in Orange is the New Black, maybe I'd think differently. But for now, let's give them the benefit of the doubt and see where they go. Your thoughts on that?
Well, what people don't understand is these decisions are not made haphazardly. You know, if somebody's auditioning, that means everyone's auditioning. And when the producers audition actors, they might bring in 10, 20, who knows?
Hundreds.
How many people they put on tape, and then they'll pick their best actors, and then those actors have to be looked at by the network. The higher-ups have to look and go, yay, nay. And these are carefully considered decisions. I mean, I remember that, there's always a backlash when some Heath Ledger is the Joker. Oh my God, who wants that?
Or me, Gal Gadot is Wonder Woman.
Right.
I mean, hey, that's me.
Everyone's always complaining about these things, and it's very silly to me because, until the showrunners let you down, trust in them. Look, Greg Berlanti and his CW shows have had a pretty good track record. They've made a
casting,
a lot of disparate shows. Legends of Tomorrow works with Supergirl, works with The Flash, works with Arrow. The fact that all these things work, you've got to give these filmmakers and producers the benefit of the doubt until you don't. And the proof will be in the pudding. When Ruby Rose dons the Batwoman outfit and then you see her on screen and she interacts with the rest of those characters, you'll know if it was a good choice.
Yeah, well, it'll either work. And
I think it will. I trust in Berlanti and his team.
Now, and you know what? Look, obviously, casting people don't always get it right. We've seen that 100 times. But I think you're right. The track record of CW, as far as their casting goes, has been pretty solid.
Pretty solid.
And again, if I saw Orange is the New Black and I thought she was terrible, I would have a different opinion. But for now, we'll go with that. All right, let's go on to the next question. Next question comes to us from Peter Butel, who writes, Robert, did you get the Hot Toys full-scale Infinity Gauntlet? It's the one hot toy I want, but that price tag makes me cry. I don't know which one he's talking about. How much is that one?
I think it's like $800 or something.
Oh my God.
But here's the thing. This is going to seem really strange. I'm going to wax philosophic right here. I am not a big prop collector, even 1-to-1 scale props. I think an Infinity War prop is cool, but I'd much rather have a figure of Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet rather than have a 1-to-1 scale prop. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Not $800. This was a gift from my wife.
I'm not sure. Maybe it's cheaper, but I'm such a character guy. I love figures so much. I've never been so much into props because here's the thing. At the end of the day, the Infinity Gauntlet doesn't really work. So if I get a prop Infinity Gauntlet, I would want to snap my fingers, and it would just bum me out when it didn't.
I would want to snap my fingers. It didn't eliminate
half the. Or if I couldn't change reality and give myself a bank account with billions of dollars in it, so I could just make all the movies, so I could buy Star Trek and make it my own image. If I can't do that, having a 1-to-1 prop just disappoints me.
All right, let's move on to the next question.
It's a cool figure, and when you get it, send us pictures, send us videos. We want to see them.
My God, I can't imagine spending that much money though on a prop, unless it's like an actually used in the movie kind of prop, not a replica though.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes to us from Stone Matt, who writes, "Hey guys, over or under 50%? The cap says Avengers Assemble in Avengers 4. Well, they're running out of time, so I'll be honest with you. I thought he was going to say it in Infinity War. He didn't. I would look understanding Kevin Feige and the way he geeks out about this stuff too. I gotta believe it's over, not 100%, but I gotta believe it's over 50%. What do you think?
I'm with you. But look, I thought for sure in Age of Ultron, they would batter down a door and Hulk would be standing there and all the Avengers would be bloodied and Hulk would say, Ultron, we would have words with thee. Which is my favorite comic panel. It's in Avengers 22, Kurt Busiek and George Perez. That was my favorite. I love that so much. I thought for sure we were going to see it in the movie, and we didn't.
Didn't get it.
I was bummed out, but I think we're probably going to get Avengers Assemble. By the way, that's the name of the movie in the UK. The first Avengers is actually called Avengers Assemble.
I did not know that.
It is.
All right. Well, there you go. All right. Let's go on to the next one. The next one comes to us from Ben Rayner, who writes, knowing that the Frost sisters will be regulars on The Gifted this season, over or under 20%, that Emma Frost shows up in season 2. I'll tell you what, 20 is a good number. 20% is a good number. I'll still take the under on it. Not much under, but I'll still take. They seem to be wanting to lean away from bringing in those high-profile, bigger-name characters. So I'm going to take the under on it. What do you think?
I think you might be right. I mean, Emma Frost is a big X character, big X villain. I mean, we did see her in X-Men First Class, and I think they'll. I don't know. I think you're right. I'm going to go under on that. I don't know how they're going to work it out.
I'd probably take, if you said the line was 10%, I'd probably take over 10, but I just, 20 is just a bit high for me. All right, next one comes to us from Canada Rocks. Indeed it does. Robert Meyer Burnett, super excited about you teaming with John. What was your favorite Comic-Con trailer? Shazam, Aquaman, Glass, or something else?
Well, okay, first of all three of those trailers I dug. And I thought they were, Shazam I thought was perfect for what it is. You know, again, jury's still out. Aquaman is, I really like James Wan as a person and as a filmmaker. But the movie looked incredibly goofy in a good way to me. Like, I was delighted by what I saw. I felt like a little kid watching that trailer. And Glass, how cool was, again, I'm in.
Yeah.
But the trailer that I liked the most, and this might be controversial, was Godzilla King of the Monsters.
You're not alone, man. I've been hearing from a lot of people who that was their favorite trailer. It was something else.
Music, they used Claude Debussy's Clair de Lune in that trailer, which is one of my favorite pieces of modern classical music. They use it at the end of The Right Stuff when Chuck Yeager's making this flight. And all the other Mercury astronauts are in Texas watching this fan dance. They're playing Clair de Lune. And when I heard that over the monsters, and it was so majestic and beautiful. Like, I'm an old school kaiju fan from the time I was a little kid. I mean, when I saw Rodan when I was like 5, I was in love. And the way there's such beauty, those monsters were presented as being beautiful and being majestic.
Yeah, that's the word I was going to say. There's a majesty to them. Yeah.
They called them, titans. And I've known Mike Doherty for a long time, even before I met him on X2. I was a big fan of his animation. Like, he used to draw greeting cards, like Halloween cards I used to buy at Dark Delicacies like 20 years ago. And I think, he really gets it. And I think he's going to bring that kind of... He loves monsters the way Guillermo del Toro loves monsters.
Right.
The way John Schnepp loved monsters. And I think he's going to bring a majesty that we've never seen, certainly not in the American Godzilla movies. And
right.
I'm really looking forward to this. And it just, for what it was, I'm in.
I think the smartest thing about that trailer was it seemed like the trailer was a direct response to the overwhelming criticism that the first Godzilla movie had was, we don't get any Godzilla. Like, every time you see Godzilla, you cut away from him. This trailer was just loaded with, whether it was Ghidra, Rodan, or Mothra, or Godzilla himself. It really seemed like a response to the criticism of the first film, which I thought was really great.
And all my favorite monsters.
Yeah, they were all there.
My absolute favorite old school kaiju is Godzilla versus Monster Zero, which is crazy. I mean, they find Planet X. They're aliens that tell the Earth, hey, we want to borrow Rodan and Godzilla to fight Ghidra, who's on their planet. Turns out they're lying. They really want to use all three monsters and send them against the Earth. It's wacky sci-fi at its finest. Anytime I see Ghidra or Ghidorah, bring him on or her on, whatever you want to say she is.
All right.
He is.
Next question here. Koba writes, when will the new Spawn get a release date? Good question. I mean, look, they've made some interesting moves. You got Jeremy Renner on there. Obviously, they got Jamie Foxx in the lead. I am still hyper, and I'm all for those moves. Yeah. Jamie Foxx, great actor. Renner, that gives you some more credibility there. I am still very skeptical about the decision being made here for McFarlane directing this thing himself, who has never directed squat. He knows the material, but doesn't know how to direct. I don't know. I would feel much more comfortable if he went out and got an actual director and he was the producer, so he could actually, have some control over the film. But anyway, as far as I know, they're still a ways away from. I haven't heard a startup date. I think it's still in the Christmas. That's just my guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, look, they've announced they want to do it. McFarlane's been trying to make this for
years,
a long time. And I think, look, the Blumhouse model has been so successful. And, they've got their own superhero franchise now. They sort of stole Unbreakable away, and I Split and now Glass. I mean, they've got their own shared universe.
Yeah.
and now they've got Halloween. Spawn's going to have to be pretty damn good before they pull the trigger on that. I mean, I think it's going to be. They've got a great cast. That script's going to be really solid.
Well, I mean, it's got to say something about the script, doesn't it? That you're getting a Jamie Foxx on board, that you're getting a Jeremy Renner on board. I mean, these guys who have, they're not have their pick and choice of any film in Hollywood, but they can be a little bit picky. They got to say something about it.
It's not an inexpensive movie, and they've pioneered sort of. Shyamalan comes back after he was sort of ostracized after making a bunch of movies that people didn't like. He comes back and he does The Visit.
The Visit, which was pretty good.
Pretty good, but he makes that for like $5 million. He makes Split for not very much money, and it turned out to be a big international hit. Spawn's it's gonna be a large outlay of cash for them. They're gonna have to be pretty solid on it.
But Jason Blum has said they're gonna keep this budget. Jason has said they're gonna keep this budget small. Yeah. So I just then how much is Spawn going to be on screen? Right. I mean, a lot of question marks. But I'm sure.
How do you do his cape without doing a lot of
yes. So there's still a lot of question marks. But hey, who knows? We've seen more surprise things. Okay, Rude Shot writes, what a great marketing tool it would be if the Russos revealed the title of Avengers 4 on the extras section of Ant-Man home video. Your thoughts? No, it wouldn't be, because the moment one person found out what the title is, everybody on the planet finds out. Like, if you're thinking you could put that on the Ant-Man DVD so everybody will buy the DVD to find out what the name Avengers 4 is, you don't have to. The second the first person watches it, it's going to be everywhere on the internet. So it's still not a bad idea, but it wouldn't be much of a marketing tool.
I think we're going to find out the title of whatever the next Avengers movie is going to be called at the very end of Captain Marvel. It's going to say...
I can't believe that. That's 2 months before the movie comes out.
They're going to keep it a secret, and they're going to release and then they'll play the trailer for the first trailer for Avengers will be on the end of Captain Marvel.
So let me get this. You think that they're not going to even give out the title or the first trailer until 2 months before the movie? I think you're correct.
They don't have
You're correct.
They don't have to. Here's the thing. I thought it was brilliant that I walked into Avengers Infinity War not knowing anything about it. I haven't had that experience, and I'm a spoiler fiend. Like, nothing got out. Nothing got out for that movie. They've got Captain Marvel coming out, which is their first female-led superhero movie. I mean, it's directed by co-directed female. One of the directors is a female. You got a female lead. You've got one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel universe.
Feige says she's probably going to be the most powerful character in the universe.
They don't have to say anything, and I think showmanship. I think they're going to come out guns blazing because they don't have to tell us. They don't have to tell us.
I agree, but that's like saying you don't have to put out a trailer for a Star Wars movie.
It's going to say at the end of the crawl, just like it said Thanos will return. It's going to say at the end of Captain Marvel, and they're probably not. They're going to do what they did. They're not going to have a press screening. They're going to have the premiere, and then the next day they'll have the press screenings, just like with Infinity War, and it'll say Captain Marvel will return in Avengers
yada yada. Christmas. By Christmas, we are going to have this title.
I don't know. I don't think they have to do it.
Oh my!
I just wanted not to do it. Right. I wanted to be. I want to be in that first screening. No one's invited me to premiere for a Marvel movie yet, but I want to be sitting in that screening, And it was like when I was at Comic-Con and they announced what the second Avengers movie was.
Right.
You know, at Hall H. When they said it was Age of Ultron, I squealed like a little 5-year-old kid on Christmas morning. Like, oh my God! I was so excited.
All right, let's move on here. Next one comes to us from Stephen Mattern, who writes, Marvel Spider-Man game looks great. So excited to play next month. Also, John, was the director's commentary on Google Play really interested to watch? I actually don't know because somebody gave me a code to get it on Fandango now. So I don't know. I'm going to assume the director's commentary is on the Google one. I just don't know. Someone gave me a free credit for it, so that's where I watched it. I'm going to assume it's there. The cinematics, I'm not much of a console gamer. The cinematics for this Spider-Man game do look really good. I mean, they look breathtaking. I'm probably not going to play it myself just because I don't play a lot of console games, but I'll be looking forward to watch the cutscene movie that somebody edits together. Have you been following the Spider-Man game at all?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, a friend of mine, Yuri Lowenthal, he did the motion capture for Spider-Man.
Oh, nice.
He's been doing it for 4 years.
Wow.
They've been making this game for 4 years. He was telling me this, I ran into him at Comic-Con. And not only that, there's a Hot Toys figure of the Spider-Man from the game. Now, normally they've made a few. They've made a few video game figures in the past. Like they've done the Batman Arkham figures. They've done what's the Michael Fassbender movie where he played
Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed. They did a great Assassin's Creed figure, but to have a video game figure announced and made and solicited before the game comes out means that they're pretty high on it. Right. So I can't wait.
Next one comes to us from Ben Rayner, who writes, does Rob also collect Kotobukiya?
Not usually.
Because you really like more the 1/6 inch scale stuff.
I mean, I collect, there's things, I get a lot of one-off stuff, like things I like. They do a lot of cool statues and figures. I mean,
I got a few Kotobukiyas up here on my desk.
It's great stuff, but I get lots of one-off stuff, like Metacom stuff. Like I had to get the Neon Genesis Evangelion figures, you know, because I like that. And
right.
So I have a lot of like weird. I collect Bandai diecast stuff. Like I love Japanese super robots. So this Bandai Soul Chigoken stuff, Bandai Robotech or Macross stuff. I mean, but I've got a few statues here and there, some superhero stuff and some anime stuff too.
All right. Next question comes to us from Raccoos, who writes, a while back I asked the question, what does better in December, Bumblebee or Aquaman? John, you said Bumblebee before the trailers were released. After seeing both trailers, do you still think that? Look, it's going to be close. The Bumblebee trailer was pretty damn good. And the thing is, you got the director from Kobo and the Two Strings directing it. So, I mean, that's a big push right there. The trailer looks solid. I loved the Aquaman trailer. To me, that was my favorite trailer. I still think, even if you just look at recent track record of box office between DC stuff and the Transformers universe stuff, I still think Bumblebee will outperform Aquaman. I think Aquaman will do fine. But I mean, first of all, that weekend of December 21st is a mosh pit. Within a 7-day window, you have Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You have Peter Jackson's Mortal Engines. You have Bumblebee. You have Aquaman. You have Mary Poppins. You have Alita Battle Angel. You have Holmes and Watson, and you have got Steve Carell's Welcome to Marwen. They're all going to struggle. None of these films are going to do as well as they would if they were not in this mosh pit. But as of right now, I still think, well, first of all, forget Bumblebee and Aquaman. Mary Poppins is going to win that weekend. I firmly believe that. I might be wrong, but I really do believe Mary Poppins is going to win that weekend. But I think Bumblebee will just a little bit outdo Aquaman. What do you think?
Well, you know, they've gone back to old school Transformers. I mean, Bumblebee is a VW Bug. Then they've got the Decepticon that looks like a Veritech fighter from...
Yeah, I think it's Starscream.
Starscream, which was one of the first toys. They actually used a Robotech toy back in the day. And I mean, they used a toy from across Robotech as a Transformer. I mean, anybody who grew up with the Transformers and has that nostalgic attachment to original Transformers, you can't watch that Bumblebee trailer and not be like, oh. Because it looks like old school. It's not. Bumblebee transforms slower. You can enjoy, as opposed to being so fast. I mean, I really like the first Transformers movie.
I unapologetically, I love the first Transformers. I hate all the other ones, but I love that first one.
One of the great things about that movie was the boy in his car aspect.
Yes.
Now we're getting a girl and her car aspect, and that kind of all-American, your first car thing, or whatever, and you've got that element of it. Then you've got that Iron Giant aspect of falling in love with this, or having a relationship with this sentient machine that turns out to be, represent goodness. And to me, I watched that trailer and I'm like, wow, that's the first time a Transformers trailer actually got me in the feels. I was like, I'm in.
All right.
But wait a minute, Aquaman, can't wait. It just looks like such amazingly, whether it's goofy, over the top craziness, I couldn't even believe what I was watching.
And it's James Wan.
I know.
And it's James Wan, so there's good reason to have optimism.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
All right, let's move on to the next question here. The next one comes to us from Just Plain Steve, who writes, if Sony decides to cut ties with the MCU and bring Spider-Man back into their Spider-Verse, do they recast yet again? How do they move forward? If I am not mistaken, and I could be, but if I'm not mistaken, Tom Holland's contract is actually with Sony. I believe Tom Holland's contract is with Sony. So, and he has more films on his contract exceeding Far From Home, even though Far From Home, it represents the final film in the deal between the MCU and Sony. So, theoretically speaking, I am surmising, I can't back this up, but my speculation here is that if they do decide to cut ties, bring Spider-Man back into their Spider-Verse, I have a feeling Tom Holland's coming along with it, and they just ignore all the stuff in the MCU. I think, I don't know, but I'm guessing. Rob, what do you think they do?
I think you're right about that. I mean, I think that there's, yes, because Spider-Man is owned by Sony. They made a co-production deal with Disney and the MCU and Marvel, and his contract has to be with Sony because they still own the rights, the underlying rights to Spider-Man. So what you just said is probably correct. And look, there's no reason why after 2 MCU movies they can't have a standalone. They've talked about making a Kraven movie now. Like, Kraven might be the next standalone villain after Venom.
They've just brought on a screenwriter for it.
Yeah, so they bring on a screenwriter for Kraven. So they make a Spider-Man movie. They do Kraven's Last Hunt. You don't even have to mention the MCU. It's just like you have lots of friends, John. You don't hang out with them every day. You've got friends that you hang out with, you have an adventure with, you might go camping with, or you might go to the movies with, and you don't see them for a month. And then you'll see other friends. So they can make a couple of Spider-Man movies where Spider-Man just doesn't see the other Marvel characters for a while until they make another deal, and then, oh, hey, Mr. Stark, assuming he comes back post-snap.
Although one of my
friends... They get him off Titan.
One of my friends, one of my viewers, I should say, asked me, and I love this idea, that I got to say, as the notion of Kraven and he's hunting Venom, something about that just gets my spider sense going. I mean, something about that sounds completely appealing. I love the notion of it.
I agree with you. I didn't think about that. But that's really, what a great spin on a classic story.
So Spider-Man stays over there in the MCU. You know what? You just have Venom kind of take over that role, and now he's the prey. Kraven sees that as the ultimate apex predator. I'm going to hunt that thing. That could be amazing.
I would watch that movie. I'm excited now. I didn't even think about that. I'll watch that movie.
All right, next question.
What a great idea.
And we've only got about 5 or 10 minutes left here, so we're going to try to fly through these as quick as we can because we still got a lot of questions. This next one comes to us from Evan Jenkins, who writes, any news on some new merch for the show? Thanks. You know what? I was this close to having merch ready for the show, and then I just could not get things worked out right with the production people that were going to produce it. So I'm still working that out, but hopefully soon I will let you know. All right, Steve Mattern writes, to clarify, I don't see it listed online. What was Steve talking about? Steve was talking about, director's commentary on the Google thing. Yeah, I'm not, again, I don't have it, so I can't answer, unfortunately. All I know is that the Fandango Now one works because somebody gave me a code for it. Scott Ragland writes, with the details we got on Matt Reeves' Batman, I'd like to see a serial killer thriller with Clayface as the villain. His backstory and abilities could make each murder unique, and only Batman sees connections. I'll tell you what I think about that. I like the first part of what you're saying, Scott, a serial killer thriller. Love it. What I don't think Matt Reeves is going to do is go metahuman. I don't think Matt Reeves is going to go metahuman. I think he's going to really want to make this a detective movie. And therefore, I think whatever your villain is going to end up being, I don't think it's going to be somebody with meta powers. I'm not saying I'm against the idea. I'm just getting the feeling that Matt Reeves is going to go human. And that's what, in focus on that aspect of Batman, much like Christopher Nolan did with his Batman film. So that's why I don't think it's going to be a Clayface, but rather somebody else. obviously Black Mask is going to be in the Birds of Prey, so it's not going to be Black Mask, but something in that vein. I don't know, Robert, could they use one of the meta Batman rogues gallery, or do you think it'll go more human?
No, I'm with you. I think it has to be a human villain because, Batman, I always thought Batman was best when he is grounded by the human animal. His meta-human rogues, whether it was Clayface or others, never interested me as much as the Penguin, or the Joker, because it was their intellect that made them dangerous. The same way Batman's intellect made him a formidable hero. And I think I would love to see a movie like Seven, David Fincher's Seven,
but make Batman kind of film.
A little bit more bat action in it. But no one's ever going to do that. But man, it would be cool. Something that's like that dark and that kind of going after some diabolical game playing. Because John Doe in that movie is playing games. He's like a weird Riddler, Joker character.
Yeah, in many ways.
But it's very set in the real world, but almost on the edge of reality. It's kind of in an every city. You don't know really where you are. It's just a bad place. I mean, it's like Gotham at its worst.
Okay, Scott follows it up with maybe a Silence of the Lambs kind of tone. Yeah, I think Rob and I both agree with you. That would be really great. Film Freak writes, "Oh, hi, John and Robert. At any time in the future, do you plan on making an MCU ranking, or would that not be for a while since we get 3 movies a year?" Yeah, I could probably see us sitting down here one of these days and just each saying, okay, how do we? What are we at now, Jonathan? 18, 19? How many MCU films do we get?
I think Avengers 4 is going to be 22.
Yeah, I think 22.
Avengers 4 is going to be 22. Okay, so at some point here, we'll probably sit down. Yeah, I can see us doing something like that, maybe in a few weeks. Maybe we'll do a list leading into Captain Marvel, and then we'll see where we're at after Spider-Man Far From Home and see how that list gets kind of rearranged. Yeah. James Argenta writes, "Do you think the reason why Mantis was with Ego was that she is his daughter and Ego let her live since she served a purpose?" No, they actually, if I remember correctly, in it, he actually mentions how he got her and stuff like that. There was never any reference to her being one of his children, so I wouldn't think so.
I don't think so either.
Okay. Let's see. Ernesto Sadeso writes, "Wish you the best on this new era of the show." Thank you so much, Ernesto. I got to tell you what, I am super thrilled to have Robert here. I think it's just awesome having Robert here with his knowledge and everything he brings to the table, and I'm already having fun doing this. I got to tell you, this is great for me.
I can't thank you enough. You asked me, and I'm like, sure. Plus, we have a history. It's good that we are getting back together, and we did a lot of shows together.
We've probably done over 100 shows together at some point. So
it's great to be back here with you, and it seems like a natural. I've always said that a show is defined by the host. And this is your show, and you and John sort of defined heroes. Then John sort of was the guy behind it, and he brought me on. So to be here with you because you asked me to be on the shows, it's great. It's great that we click and we're going to see where this goes and what we can do, and it can live and grow and change and evolve. Is really exciting.
It is exciting. This has been great so far. All right, got time for a few more here, guys. Austin Hernandez writes, "Heroes don't always wear capes, and John, with what you disclosed to us the other day, made you my hero." Well, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. "You and your shows always give me hope in sometimes a hopeless world. Much love, John." Well, you know what? That's the thing, Austin. One of the great things, there are so many auxiliary benefits to the fan community and us all being part of the fan community together. Like, we get emails all the time from people who say, my family was going through a hard time, I was going through a hard time. Just having that little oasis every day to watch your shows and talk to the other members of the community and stuff like that was really a reprieve for me in the middle of some hard times, helped get me through all that kind of stuff. And I'm really honored that I can play a part of that too, and I can be a part of that. And like guys like Jonathan and Rob and me, and making these shows knowing that we're not just talking about our ridiculous, fascination with these comic movies, and we are, but also knowing that, hey, it gives us a place as, endeared strangers to come together and talk about these things that we share, part of the things we love and share together. And so thank you, Austin, for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And I hope you continue to enjoy what we're doing.
You know, I had to come up with my own catchphrase. You know, I couldn't say sweaties or something like that. So I was like, what are we? What is this community of fans? And whether you cosplay, whether you play D&D. So my catchphrase, and I'll say it here. I said it once before, but imagination connoisseurs.
I love that.
All of us
I
are
love
imagination connoisseurs, and I think that how cool is it to be with a group of imagination connoisseurs all over the world?
Yeah.
You know, and we all share that love of the flights of fancy, whether it's superheroes, whether it's Star Trek and Star Wars, whether it's role-playing games or D&D, whether it's video games. It's all about inspiring each other through the works of imagination that we all love. And
love it.
Imagination connoisseurs.
All right, let's move on here. Guys, I'm going to pick up the pace here because I want to try to get through all these if we can. We may not be able to get through all of them. We'll go through as many as we can. ZCM Zombie Custom Maps writes, do you think James Gunn could fit for Man of Steel 2? I think James Gunn could fit for anything. I'll be honest with you. The guy who made Super, and the guy who made Slither, and the guy who made Guardians of the Galaxy, this dude's just a great storyteller. I think he'd be great for Man of Steel 2.
You know what I'd love to see him do? I'd love to see him do the J.M. DeMatteis, Keith Giffen funny Justice League International from the 80s, which is it's got Batman, you know, Green Lantern, Fire and Ice. But you do it funny. It was the most hilarious. One of my favorite comic series of all time is that hilarious Justice League. And if they want to redo Justice League and make it different, they could bring James Gunn on board to do that.
All right,
comedic Justice League.
See here, Peter Hong writes, Robin John, thoughts on a Vision solo movie. Love the Tom King run. It's brilliant. Maybe it would make a great TV series. I'll be honest with you, the way they've done Vision, I don't see it. Vision is a wonderful supporting character. I don't know that it would garner a lot of interest from the general movie-going audience to watch a solo movie or a series on that. I'll be honest, I think he works great as a supporting character. I love Paul as an actor, but I just really think most of the audience sees him as a supporting character.
I agree. Even though I love the design of that character, I've always loved Vision. I've always loved Scarlet Witch. I love the design of Vision. I love Bettany playing Vision. I love that character so much, but I completely agree. The way they've set him up, he's a supporting character.
Somebody says, new mic for Robert. Oh, I haven't heard how, it looks like the mic works great, but we'll have to hear it afterwards.
Oh, you know what? How about this? I might be sitting underneath the mic.
But no, you were getting good, strong signal where you were. So,
okay. Well,
yeah, so it's a good mic. I don't know. I'll have to listen to it afterwards to see if there was any actual problem with it.
Maybe bring it closer. Who knows? Maybe I'm not talking.
Who knows? A fan of Peanuts writes, hey, John and Robert, what DC film, if any at all, would either of you prefer James Gunn to tackle first? Which Guardians film do you both like more? I like Guardians 1 more, so get that out of the way. Which DC property? Honestly, I really don't care. I would love, whether it's a Green Lantern Corps, whether it's like the Justice League stuff you were talking about, whether it's tackling like an Aquaman after James Wan does a run with it, maybe The Flash. I think he would do a great job with Ezra Miller's Flash. Look, anything you put him in charge of, he's a great storyteller. I remember I was sitting with Kevin Feige and James Gunn. They were sitting at my table, and I asked Kevin Feige, this dude has never done anything big budget. So what made you think about handing him a $100+ million movie? And I'll never forget Kevin Feige said, because great storytellers is completely independent from how much the budget is. A good storyteller is a good storyteller.
That's why he's a great producer.
And that is why he's a great producer. And James Gunn proved it. He took it and made a great movie. So you put James Gunn as a great storyteller over any property of DC, and the DC property will benefit. But I'll go, if I have to guess one, I'll say an Ezra Miller Flash. I think that would be great.
Although I'd love to see, only because I love the Legion of Superheroes.
Right.
I've always loved, and again, I keep thinking ensemble casts because James Gunn did such a great job doing that. But I love the Legion, and I think, but again, people are always going to compare. Well, you had Guardians of the Galaxy here, so he's doing another super team. Yeah, but so what? Martin Campbell directed GoldenEye, and he directed Casino Royale.
That's
I know
true.
it's the same franchise, but hey.
Okay, Maximus1041 says, Schnepp smiling down on you both with love. Obviously everybody misses John every day. Alex Von Gollum writes, Hey, John and Robert. In Infinity War, the final scene with Cap saying, "Oh God," his face expression of devastation always floors me. 18 times and counting. How did the scene impact you? Chris Evans makes that scene. You know, a lot of people will talk, and for good reason, about that exchange in that scene between Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. during the "I don't feel so good." You know,
that kills me.
And that's all performance. But I'm so glad, Alex, that you mentioned that, Captain, because that moment, it is the first time that we have truly seen Cap in defeat. And it's not just defeat, a pride thing. It's understanding what his failure has cost the universe. And in that moment, you see sadness and devastation and, dare I say, guilt. I see all of that in Chris Evans' performance, and that's why that scene hits me so very hard. I mean, I think the best, most emotional scene in that movie is still Rocket and Thor talking about his loss. What else do I have to lose? I think that's the best acted scene in the movie. But then I put that Cap scene right up there with Tony and Spider-Man. But I don't know, what about you?
No, I completely agree with you. I think Infinity War, look, because it's the culmination of all these Marvel movies, it's never going to get enough credit. But in my mind, it is one of the great fantasy epic films ever made, because it shouldn't really work as well as it does. I mean, you've got scenes where Thor turns back on a neutron star. I mean, it is such an epic, fantastical. Nothing has come close to the way I felt reading, like Crisis on Infinite Earths when it first came out. I mean, reading these Secret Wars, these giant Marvels, whatever, these huge comic book crossover or great miniseries like reading Kingdom Come, and the feeling I got reading these epic comic book crossovers with all these characters, I never thought that could ever be duplicated in a film, because it's a totally different experience. But Infinity War, I was blown away by how well that movie works and where it takes you and where you go. And by the end of the film, you are completely locked in emotionally
and exhausted.
But you just can't believe what you've watched. And it does pack an emotional wallop. I mean, yes, there's always going to be detractors who, I don't like comic book films, whatever. But if you're open to it, as most of us fellow imagination connoisseurs are, these movies work like gangbusters. And man, I love Infinity War.
Okay, next one up comes to us from Sam Fisher. Rob, what did you think of Cloak and Dagger?
I've seen the pilot, the first episode, really liked it. You know what I liked about it? I liked how it was very more emotional than I thought it would be. It wasn't all action-packed.
It's very character-centric.
There's a lot of character, a lot of pathos, a lot of real emotion, which is what the comic book characters are all about. They've never had their definitive run, I don't think. Cloak and Dagger's never had some, oh my god, I had to read that run, like Daredevil's, say, Born Again run or the Elektra run. And I really think what they've done with the show is wonderful.
Tell you what, I love the pilot. It kind of went downhill after that.
Oh, really?
The season finale is strong. It's a strong season finale. It's just you got to labor through the rest of the... Fortunately, it's not a long series, but Sam Fisher writes, Rob, that was Sam. ZOMG Ruler writes, Sophie's Choice, Sinister Six or Legion of Doom? I'll go Sinister Six, but it is tight. That is a Sophie's Choice.
Yeah, look, the Legion of Doom is way cool, and I'm a DC fanboy, but I just don't. They'd have to develop those characters first. Whereas if we're already getting, more films in the whatever the Spider-Verse is going to be, I think it's easier to do a Sinister Six movie than it is to do a Legion of Doom movie, because those characters, like the DC pantheon of heroes, are much bigger.
Right.
Than with Sinister Six, despite the fact there's a lot of wacky characters there, they're more grounded, if that makes any sense. I think it'd be easier to make that movie.
I agree. Just completely agree. Okay, MW77 says, favorite on-screen Batman and why? To me, it's the Ben Affleck Batman, because regardless of what you think about the script and whether or not Batman should kill people, because that's a script thing, to me, Ben Affleck gave us the most true rendition of Batman to me that we've ever had on screen. He was the one Batman to truly portray that Bruce Wayne essentially died in that alley with his parents and the Batman was born, and that Bruce Wayne was the mask and Batman was the true individual. I've never seen any of the other Batmans really communicate that the way Ben Affleck did in Batman vs. Superman. Not so much Justice League, but in Batman vs. Superman. So, I mean, Ben Affleck's not a better actor than Christian Bale. He's not a better actor than Michael Keaton, but I just liked his portrayal better. Which one was your favorite?
He's different. I mean, look, as a fully realized Batman, I think you're right. But we didn't get enough Ben Affleck Batman in a whole Batman movie. I really thought Christian Bale for me was the guy I loved, because between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, I just loved his overall portrayal of the character. I liked everything he did. I liked his transformation into Batman. I liked his relationship with Alfred. The Dark Knight Rises has a lot of wacky plot holes for me that I still like it. I don't love it, but I like all three of those movies. I enjoy watching them. I really do, and I really enjoy. I've always loved Christian Bale, all the way back to Empire of the Sun.
Oh, he's a great actor. Great actor. All right, Beastmaster writes, after Preacher and Lucifer being so good, though different than the source, what other Vertigo property do you want to see next? And everybody knows how much I love Lucifer. I freaking love that show. Thank you, Netflix, for saving it and bringing it back. So I don't know, other Vertigo titles you think could come back?
There's a lot of, I love Shade the Changing Man. I don't know how they would do that as a series. I love Grant Morrison's Animal Man. I thought was incredible. I wanted to do it as a low-budget movie for DC, a live-action movie. But everyone knows I have one answer to this.
Oh,
yes. That's The Sandman.
Yeah.
I just finished reading...
Which Joseph Gordon-Levitt's been talking about forever, but it keeps getting canceled.
I just reread, because I got the Absolute edition of Sandman Overture, the 25th anniversary Sandman story. It's so incredible. And with the Absolute version with the huge pages, it's my favorite comic series of all time. But it would need a great visionary and somebody that would stick to their guns and could really do it. Just use the comics. The comics are right there. All you have to do is adapt them. That's not an easy thing.
Yes. You make it sound like it's so simple.
But if you could figure out that way to do them, I would love to see. There's an issue of Sandman called Dream of a Thousand Cats, where the whole episode, Sandman takes the form of a feline and the main character is a feline, and it's all just cats. I want to see somebody do that as an episode of a TV show. People would go bonkers. It's the one comic book I ever gave my mom to read. She loved it. She's a crazy cat lady.
All right. Next question comes to us from Dutch87, who writes, what DC movie would you guys like to see James Gunn do? Man of Steel 2, maybe. Get to the Chopper. We've already kind of covered that ground, but thanks for sending the question. Dutch Brian Cruz writes, Robert, can you give us an update on what's been going on between you and Collider? Nope, we're not here to talk about drama. We're not here to talk about any of that stuff. I appreciate you asking and everything, but we're just here to talk about comic books and comic book movies and comic book TV shows, and hope you understand that. Ian Nguyen-Du writes, Avengers 4 title and trailer by end of the year per Kevin Feige. We've already heard me and Robert talk about it. He doesn't think he's crazy.
If they're
he
doesn't by think. End of the year, okay. Maybe we'll get.
I'm telling you, by Christmas.
But if I was Kevin Feige, I'd be like, I don't have to show you all nothing, and I would wait, because people would go bananas, especially if you announce it. You go, the first trailer for Avengers 4 is going to drop at the end. When I first saw,
but that won't work with the average movie-going, the general Q movie-going public. That doesn't work for them.
But you don't have to. They're gonna go see it anyways.
I don't believe that. I do not believe it. They'll go see it anyway philosophy. I do not think.
I know, but if I had that's how I'd want to know. I'd want to know Captain Marvel will return in Avengers. Blah blah blah.
It would be awesome.
It would be awesome.
Make no mistake, that would be awesome.
Kevin, do it for me, buddy. You know you're my Lord and Savior of comic book movies.
All right, let's see here. Last two questions. Eli the Creative writes, what property should Disney resale because it's too mature? Dragon Ball because of Roshi. Let me read that again, because I'm not exactly sure what Eli's asking here. What property should Disney resale because it's too mature? Dragon Ball because of Roshi. I don't know what he's asking.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Forget the Dragon Ball part. Is there any kind of property that you think that Marvel has that is just too mature for their MCU, and that maybe they should look at sending them out elsewhere?
I thought the Vision and the Scarlet Witch having a relationship was a little too mature. I thought I was never going to see that.
He's basically a giant sex toy, right? He's just a big sex toy with batteries, right?
Or they have been buried in the comics. And when I saw that they really went for that relationship, I'm like, good for them. That was pretty edgy.
I didn't think they'd do it. I really didn't think they'd do it.
I was really amazed by that. But, I don't know. I think there's a way. It depends how. Look, they're acquiring Fox. Fox has a huge R-rated library. And they're going to have to come to terms. I find it interesting that Touchstone, that made a lot of R-rated movies, made things like Ruthless People and Down and Out in Beverly Hills. They're licensing those movies to other companies like Kino to put them out on home video. which is weird. Like they've got these R-rated films that they own, that they made, that they're licensing off to other companies, and that's an odd thing. So I don't know, what are they going to do with what are they going to do with Fight Club?
Well, one of the more interesting things here...
Is Disney going to put a Fight Club theme park?
Wow. Yeah, we're Fightland.
Where you can blow stuff up and get in fights?
I mean, Bob Iger, I remember, did mention, if we're talking in the realm of comic book movies, Bob Iger did mention early in the news of Disney making a move to try to acquire Fox, saying that, hey, yeah, I think there's room in the MCU for R-rated stuff, because the reporter was asking him specifically about Deadpool and stuff like that. It will be interesting to see how they manage this moving forward. Off the top of my head, something that they might I don't know. I can't see them fitting a Blade into the existing MCU with that. Maybe you license that off for a percentage deal and let some other studio make that while you collect money on it. I mean, that might, but other than that, I'm not really sure. Last question of the day. How about James Gunn and the New Gods? Well, James Gunn would do a great job, but they've already got a director for New Gods.
Yeah, Ava DuVernay.
Yeah.
Who directed Wrinkle in Time.
And she also directed, the name of the town. The one with Martin Luther King. Damn, why am I forgetting the name of the town? Selma, thank you. It only got nominated for a couple of Academy Awards. I should have remembered that off the top of my head. So yeah, they've already got a director on there, although they announced her forever ago, and we've heard nothing. Then again, we've heard tons of announcements about DC stuff that all of a sudden just evaporate and disappear like a Thanos snap. So
that's a tough property to do.
Oh yeah, I was shocked when I heard they were going to try to do it. Absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we went 20 minutes over time, and that's perfectly fine for this, our inaugural episode of relaunching the Weekly Hero. In the future, we'll try to keep this thing closer to an hour. Guys, thank you so much for being here and letting us do this and showing off Rob's hot toys and showing off my fractured butthole. I should just leave it at that. Toy. And
I'll come haunt you in 10 years.
And
Campea said this.
That's right. How dare you talk about your fractured butthole? And being here, as this has been a load of fun. I want to thank, first of all, fact checker Jonathan for being here, making sure technically everything was working, moving the toys back and forth. Often underappreciated guy here on the John Campea channel. And of course, special thank you to Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, we're out of time, but tell everybody who may not have heard about the new show you're developing on your own YouTube channel.
Oh, well, people have been asking me, and I'll tell you, the person who inspired me to do this was John Schnepp.
Yeah, he actually told you should do this.
He said, you should do your own show. And, we had talked about doing shows together, and that won't obviously ever happen. But so, in honor of Schnepp, I started to get off my ass. And I'm doing a show called Robservations. Robservations is the show about something. And basically, I want the show to be the experience of what it's like to go to Comic-Con and see a bunch of different panels in the space of one show. So you're not going to know what you're going to get. You can look at my YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, and see a promo. You can follow me on Twitter at BurnettRM and find out. I'm hoping to launch a show by the end of August. But I'm doing everything myself. There's road trips where I'm traveling to different states. I'm doing interviews with people, all kinds of things. So you never know what you're going to get, but it will be a show, I assure you, about something.
And where can people follow you on Twitter when they want to follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter at BurnettRM. You can find me on Instagram at RMBurnett or on Facebook at Robert Meyer Burnett.
And you guys can, of course, follow me on Twitter simply at John Campea. Hey, guys, that'll do it for us. This is our first show getting this back. Forgive any technical glitches, whatever. This is our first time out. We'll be back again next week for the next episode of The Weekly Hero. Maybe we'll have a new title by then because we are going to be changing the name of The Weekly Hero. But for now, it's The Weekly Hero. Make sure you join us again next Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 8:30 p.m. East Coast Time. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.